Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for attending our Mindfulness with the Bariatric Guru. I am Dr. Erika La Vella, a board certified bariatric surgeon and co founder of The Art of Bariatrics. And today with me is Teresa Smythe, and Teresa is from Alberta, Canada. And she has taken a really strong interest in the mastery of mindfulness and applying that towards the practice of weight management. So, with further ado, I would love to hear more about you, Teresa, and let you introduce yourself to our panel.
Well, that's great. Thank you so much, Dr. La Vella, for having me. I'm super excited to be here. I'm uh, I'm a certified yoga and meditation instructor, a bariatric coach, and I'm founder at the Bariatric Guru. And my story is I had gastric bypass surgery in 2007. At the time I had my surgery, I was actually a massage therapist and I owned a wellness clinic and a yoga studio. So it is true, you can do yoga when you're 400 pounds, even. So I had my surgery in 2007 at the end of the year. And then one of the first things I did after that, I took fitness training and I was teaching spin classes, but I went for my yoga certification and I spent a year doing that. Um, and it was just fantastic. I lost 220 pounds and I felt fantastic. Of course, who doesn't, right? And I was ripped from working out so much. I was teaching classes all day, so that was a nice side bonus too. But then life happened. Life happened. I got a divorce. I closed my business down. I moved. And I had very traumatic events happen to me. And that's really when I had to lean into everything I had learned through my yoga and meditation journey and really, learn how to, when you first start losing weight, it's it's kind of easy, right? Because you're kind of on the trajectory, you're doing good, everything's going good. But as soon as something goes wrong, I didn't have the skills to deal with that. I was 400 pounds for a reason, right? I did not have the skills to deal with stress and things of that nature. And so it was, turning to food again. And really, through my training and going back for more training, I've been trained in Hatha yoga, Kundalini yoga, Tantra yoga. Um, and every type of yoga has their own lineage of meditation. And I'm also trained in yoga nidra, which is a life-changing practice.
I love Yoga Nidra.
Me too. I'm so glad you like it.
Oh, it's my most favorite.
It really is a life-changing experience. And really, yoga nidra is not meditation. It's actually a self-hypnosis. So but it works excellent, like excellent at growing your self-esteem and your confidence, anything really that you want to do. You really are the master of your own mindset. So it's just learning
Amen, sister.
that.
That is exactly, I think, where my heart is so centered to help serve this community is, I mean, you mentioned a key things, trauma, life happening and all those stressful events, and then also skills. So what skills did we learn? What skills did we acquire? What are our mechanisms for self-soothing? And beyond that, it just tickles me to hear your joy, see your smile. I mean, you're glowing, to hear about all of the practices that you've tapped into. And the other thing that you said that kind of is lighting me up right now is that you are training, training, training. It never stops.
Never stops. It's almost embarrassing actually if I told you all the certifications I had. It really is embarrassing. It's too many, but I love actually I was in India in 2019 and did more yoga training and did some sound training there too. It was just a phenomenal experience.
Oh, you're inspiring me to hold a retreat. And
Oh, I love retreats. I can't wait. We're still in
yeah,
lockdown here in Alberta, so don't think it'll happen anytime soon here, but I
we're
can't wait.
we're planting seeds, right?
That's absolutely,
Oh,
absolutely looking forward.
wonderful. Well, is there anything else that you wanted to share about yourself before I ask you a question?
No, I think that was it. We'll probably have questions from people after. But yeah, we can just get right into it and talk about, the different things and how I implement them into my life.
Yeah. Well, on a personal note, I want to know so much more about you. I find your story very inspiring and also revealing, right? Like it can be so revealing how, in this last year. Okay. So let's reflect on 2020.
Hmm.
What sort of things came up for you that maybe, you know, describing your body. So I find mindfulness is sometimes, like, where am I feeling this right now from a physical sensation? But, being locked down, being isolated, we can name all the things, but what what is it in your body that you find challenges you to pull you back to using food as a coping mechanism? I'm just curious. I have to ask right now.
Yeah, well, you know, I mean, it's really a habit, I would say. You really need to focus on changing the habits and finding something new to cope with your stress or your anxiety. And so, like on my page, on my Facebook page, I've been doing Tiny Tip Tuesday, and it's usually an afternoon video, and I'll show people really short exercise on stress reduction because that's always the time when I would want to eat. You get the afternoon blues or you get tired, you want to pick me up, and it's going to look for the food. And so rather than doing that, just doing a simple breathing exercise or something just to bring you back to center so that it's going to be okay. Like anxiety doesn't feel good. I'm sure everybody's experienced it, especially in the last year, right? But it's okay. Like it's not going to kill you to sit with those emotions and those feelings. And I think, so many of us, especially bariatric patients, have gone through such a journey. And really, were you ever taught how to deal with emotions? Like everybody uses something different. Some people use alcohol, some people use food, right? And so it's really finding the things that work for you, and everybody's so individual. I can't stress that enough. And especially with the bariatric journey, like don't compare yourself to other people ever, because there's no two people alike on the journey, right? And everybody's bodies are completely different.
Well said. Very well said. So let's start by just talking about definitions of mindfulness and what mindfulness looks like. And I'm going to take a moment here and explain what mindfulness is for me, just to contrast how you experience mindfulness and how it shows up for you. Because I mean, again, I feel like you're a sensei here compared to my novice level of mindfulness. But um, mindfulness in my bariatric surgery program, we often describe it as, and it's advertised. We talk about mindfulness being a key component to our surgical program at our first informational session. But at the same time, when we mention it, I feel like we don't necessarily have a big plan to help people find it or navigate it or use it, which is why I'm so excited to make a connection with you. But so I describe it as, being mindful is having this almost third person awareness to what you are doing. And so often, and that is a higher level skill. So it's not something you learn as a toddler. It's not something you learn as an adolescent. You don't actually develop this skill from a neuroscience perspective until well into adulthood, 25 plus, right?
Yeah.
So be patient with yourself if you haven't yet developed the skill. But this third person kind of practice of, okay, what do I look like if I was a spirit on the wall? What do I look like if I was a ghost in the room? And then also, what am I doing? And then also, what am I thinking about? Because I find as the human experience is really shaped by our ability to have a thought, have an emotion, and have a physical sensation in our body. So for
Mm-hmm.
me, mindfulness has been this integration of awareness to all three of those things. And then I'm just on this joyful experiential journey of, well, what sort of modalities allow me to do that?
Mm-hmm.
And I think you and I were kind of joking back and forth in our emails getting ready for this. You don't have to say Om to get there,
Yeah.
which, so anyway, I can't wait to hear how you describe mindfulness.
So mindfulness, I think it's misunderstood. So there's mindfulness and there's meditation and there's mindfulness meditations. So mindfulness is simply just really being aware of your thoughts and emotions. Um, and meditation is a more formal practice of something you're going to do. And you're still going to have thoughts and emotions. It's more noticing them without judgment and just bringing yourself back to the practice. And so doing any form of meditation will naturally make you more mindful all of the time. And I find for me, mindfulness, the biggest the biggest thing for me with mindfulness is taming the inner critic and turning the inner critic into my inner believer. And you can't, if you don't know what you're saying to yourself, if you're not mindful of that, then how are you ever going to change it? I talk about I was at a yoga nidra retreat actually, and we had a native gentleman do a ceremony for us about connecting with our inner child. And I remember after, he asks, did you like it or what did you get from it? And I really honestly felt like I didn't get anything from it. I just got up and thought, oh, well, that didn't do anything for me. And going around the room, everybody else has these amazing experiences. And I'm thinking, but trust me, it caught up with me. It integrated with me. And to this day, I still keep this picture of myself. I keep that on my desk all the time, because I think connecting with your inner child really helps you, when you are mindful of those thoughts, to reframe them and turn them around, because you deserve to be your innermost cheerleader, right? We spend so much time cheering everybody else on, but then we say things to ourselves that there's no way you would say to a kid, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so to be mindful, at least the first step, just to be mindful of what you're saying, and using mindfulness, you can use mindfulness when you're eating as well, being mindful of enjoying your food and making sure you unplug from technology and enjoy the food, enjoy the conversation, right? How many times have you ever driven somewhere and then you think, I'm here already. I don't even remember driving here. It's a scary thought, but we do that all the time. We're on autopilot all of the time. And so I think mindfulness in the bariatric journey is extremely important and will help you in adjusting your habits and, like just realizing what you say to yourself.
Yeah. From a sort of like an experiential standpoint, how did you first start paying attention to those inner thoughts, that inner critic? Like, I mean, I kind of look at people sometimes, right? Have conversations with people, and there's definitely people that are on more the spiritual journey, that more of that wave, right? Where there's a handful of people that are older souls.
Yeah.
And it definitely seems to be an older soul kind of practice. And sometimes we're shepherded into this awareness. And, others aren't. So do you have any good, like, beginner kind of tips for what does that look like?
Yeah, I would say starting any kind of more formal practice is a great way to get you more in touch with your inner thoughts, your feelings, your emotions. And so for me to start any kind of practice, the most important thing is to set time aside for yourself every day, even if it's only 5 minutes. I mean, come on, there's 24 hours in a day, and the amount of people that can't sit for 5 minutes to do something for themselves, right? But it doesn't have to be, there's so many myths about, having to sit for an hour, you can't move, or you have to be a gymnast to be flexible and to be, do all these things. And that's so not true. Just bringing yourself back to just breath awareness is an excellent practice for somebody to start. Taking deep breaths. I do have videos on my Facebook page for that as well. I have one for square breathing, 4-part square breathing, and it's an excellent way just to bring you back and so that you become more centered, and then you can be more mindful, right? It's a practice. It's all a practice. And I'll say that you're never ever going to be perfect all of the time, right? You're never going to be mindful all of the time. I've been practicing meditation for probably 20 years now. And, there's still times when I sit down to do it and my mind is just all over the place. But it's a practice. The more you do it, the more your mind calms down, the more at peace you feel on a day-to-day basis, and the less reactive you are to things as well, which is, so important. You're right. You're not reacting to those emotions as soon as you have them, just realizing that, okay, I have this feeling, I have this anxiety, and being able to sit down and get in touch with yourself and saying, okay, Teresa, what is going on here?
Yeah.
And anybody can do that anytime. So it's probably difficult at first if you want that afternoon snack, or you have anxiety and you're used to reaching for something in the fridge. But if you can stop yourself intentionally those first few times and set a new habit for when that happens, I think that's really important. And that's a really good first step. And finding something you like, because there's so many types of meditation and mindfulness meditation. There's walking meditation. You can paint and meditate. You can do absolutely anything and meditate. You do not have to sit in one place. You do not have to sit for an hour. You can, like I said, do a breathing exercise, a walking meditation. And there's so many great guided, experiences now on different apps and things that I really encourage people to try so many different things and see what you like, right? Like when I was in India, we did a ton of chanting, a ton. And I love chanting, but I get it. A lot of people don't like it. They're really uncomfortable with it. And I was too at first, but the feeling it gives me inside of my body, it just gives me so much joy that it's like, I don't really care what people
Yeah,
think.
the vocalization of those specific tones and then to do it in a space around others. I mean, it's that vibration that feels so good.
It is
Um,
incredible.
yeah.
In India,
So
actually, on a side note, in India, when we were doing all that, it was crazy, the animals wanting to get into our room. There was monkeys outside and they were going crazy, and there was birds banging on the windows, and because they could feel the energy too. It was just such an incredible experience.
yeah, that I, I want to do that. That sounds amazing. So I don't know, again, being kind of an infant, I always consider myself, well, maybe I'm more like a toddler now, or well, anyway, on the journey of mindfulness. Um, there there still exists this tendency to hide or run away or distract from unpleasantness.
Mhm.
I was just wondering if you can comment on that and what strategies you've um, developed. Again, when you can think about the last 24, 48 hours, last week or something, I don't know. But I don't know, I'm always like cluing into it, right? There's always something going on around me that, yeah, I can start to recognize, not necessarily anxiety, but just unpleasantness. I don't
Mhm.
like that. I wish that person didn't talk to me that way.
Mhm.
And then it's this trickle down effect, and then the inner voice, and then maybe it's negative, maybe it's positive, maybe it's reflected back at them. And it's always these unpleasant feelings in and around conversations with other people.
Mhm.
It's always some sort of circumstance or relationship thing. So how have you identified that sense of balance, that sense of self in and around unpleasant conversations with others, or in and around boundaries, in and around saying no, maybe saying yes, maybe, again, all of those kind of things that we do, as women, but also, it's just people trying to interact with others.
Mhm. I think a really big lesson for me in my whole yoga journey actually has been realizing that everybody has their own inner story. It's their own story, and two people can experience the exact same thing, but their stories about the event are going to be completely polar opposites. And so coming from that place, I think when you're talking about having difficult conversations with people, or doing things that make you uncomfortable. I think that's important. And for me, what I've done personally is I have a self-care ritual. And by doing that, it really increases your own self-compassion, your own self-worth, your self-love. And so you realize that it's okay to say no, or once you start actually loving yourself, I mean, heck, nobody even knows what that means, do
I was
they?
gonna
Right?
say, what does that mean?
What does that mean, right? It
What?
means taking care of yourself,
Yeah.
and caring about yourself, like the way you would care about a child. And that's why I love using my inner child in the photo so much, because I look in the eyes in that picture and I think, it's a poor innocent child, you know. But really developing a self-care routine for me has been really important. And so every single morning I do some kind of self-care practice, whether it's a yoga or a meditation or something, even if it's 5 minutes. I've had times in my life, especially when I've been going through trainings, where I've gotten up at 4 in the morning and spent 2 hours in the morning meditating and doing all the things. And I had to get up at 4 in the morning, because who can fit 2 hours of self-care into their day, right? But I'll tell you, even when I had my radio show, I used to say, doing exercise or anything like that for yourself, it's like a happy pill, right? It just makes you feel good, and it sets your day up. And I think if you feel better about yourself, you take better care of yourself ultimately, right? If you care about yourself. And so being able to set boundaries and say no and things of that nature, I think come when you have more self-love and when you care about yourself. And that comes when you start taking time for yourself.
Oh, it's so true. It's so
Yeah.
true. Oh, beautiful. So, out of all of your certificates and trainings, which ones come to mind as being the most impactful for you, and why?
They've all been impactful at different stages. And that's one thing with all the different types of meditation and yoga and different things that I've learned. I use most days, I use something different every day. Some days it's a breathing exercise, and I really go with how I feel. I try to be mindful of and intentional about how I'm feeling, and set an intention for my practice too. Um,
It's
sorry, I
really
kind of,
it's really intuitive. I mean, the
it
way
is,
that
it
you
really is.
describe that. If somebody has never, I don't know. I mean, where does one start? So I always find that, it, when I'm having conversations with patients anyway, and I'll be like, well, have you practiced mindfulness? And they're like, what's that? Or where do I start? And like, so I'll usually refer them like, hey, there's lots of beautiful guided meditations out there. Like, what is your need? And if you have like a need, then the internet's a magical place. You can usually just type in a Google search, this for mindfulness for X, and then you
Exactly.
can just shop
Yeah.
and try it on. And I'm actually so much like you, Teresa, where like routine, ugh,
Yeah.
I can't do the same thing over and over. It loses its spark, it loses its spunk. I lose interest. And so the idea behind mindfulness is not to lose interest in yourself.
Exactly. That's an excellent way of putting it. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it tickles me to know that you do something different every day. So out
Oh,
of all the experiences you have, like I said, training wise, which ones were the really standout, kind of like shocking, something different? Like you mentioned this inner child exercise with a native.
mhm.
That is gorgeous.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I've had so many great experiences. And I remember taking my first yoga training, it was really the asana. And now asana just means movement in yoga. That's a part of yoga. Yoga is an exercise and it's not all movement. So the asana part is the movement. And that was really fantastic when I was newly starting my bariatric journey. It was so great to be in my own body and really during my training, the movement part of yoga, even that was really a meditation in itself, right? You're working within, and you're really working through all the things you tell yourself when you're doing something strenuous, right? So I can't do this, it hurts, I don't want to do this, when's this over? All the things. And it's learning to even in the midst of it, in the midst of holding that pose that you think, oh, there's no way I can hold this plank for another second, it's, oh, no, yes, I can. I'm reframing it, and I'm changing the way I think about it. And so, in the beginning of my journey, the asana and the yoga and the movement was so important for me. And I found in the last few years, really dealing with serious depression. And so I found meditation has been really the thing that's really helped me cope with a lot of that. So, and I just want to state, like, I think depression in a bariatric patient is common, especially, right after, when you're malnourished and you're not getting enough nutrients. And so if you are experiencing anything, please reach out and talk to somebody. It is so okay to ask for help. And I know for me, it was the hardest thing I ever had to do, even after my yoga training. The hardest thing I ever had to do was ask for help. And I'm glad I did.
I give all of my patients permission to be vulnerable,
Mhm.
because the post-op process is met with so many emotions, so many changes, and so many, uh, again, that not to say every person who has bariatric surgery struggles with emotional eating, but guess what, guys? I'm an emotional eater too. And whenever we have these, um, whenever the thing that we used to do to bring us some joy, some comfort, I mean, and it's different. Yeah, it's going to be unpleasant. Again, that unpleasant feeling idea, and leaning into what is unpleasant, not necessarily judging it, not necessarily, but knowing it's temporary.
Mhm.
I think this
Exactly.
impermanence idea is another thing that I've always loved from, Eastern religion, Eastern thought is impermanent. The only thing that is constant is change.
Truth. Yeah. It's a good thing I love change.
Me too. I
I'm
love
always,
it too much.
yeah, to keep myself changing and moving forward. So, but that's really, I think that's really how I coach my clients too. It's one small step, if whatever you're trying to do, it's just one small step every day. And I think people think, especially through the bariatric journey, right? When I finally lose this weight, I'm going to be happy. No, you're not.
Yep. No, it's an inside job.
Same.
Mhm.
Life has ups and downs, and it's really learning how to deal with those in a different way than using food. And like you said about emotional eating, everybody is taught to emotional eat because,
Yeah.
right? Like, so I found right after my surgery too, this is a really big adjustment because it's all celebrations. What happens? There's food, there's cake, there's treats. A funeral, what happens? There's food, there's cakes, there's treats. It doesn't, if you do something, excuse me, good and you want a reward, you'll take yourself out for dinner or you buy yourself a treat, and our parents taught us that too. If you're good, I'll give you a treat. And it was always food, right?
I'm a mother to a 4-year-old, and I'll tell
Yes,
you what, those bribes work. That's why
they
we
do.
use them.
Yeah.
We're very easily rewarded by these foods things.
Yeah.
Um,
But
yeah.
and so my point being though that we're all like that, and
Yes.
that's okay, and it's okay to, you're not going to be able to do that after surgery, obviously, right? But it changes, and you're able to do different things and like different things. I know for me, my taste buds changed huge after surgery, and I had to learn to cook. I took a raw food chef course actually. So I'm
Look at
that
you.
too. But it's it's just, there's so much to learn in the journey, so be easy on yourself, take one step at a time, and really just try all sorts of things and see what you like, because everybody's individual, right? Because I like meditation doesn't mean you'll like it.
Mhm.
It's, find something that you do like, and that will help you be more mindful or more present, and just taming that inner critic, and
Yeah.
reframing.
Yeah. So I did the mindfulness based stress reduction course through UC San Diego. And we had the most amazing proctor, teacher, mentor who did it. And she was just like you, had been meditating for like 20 years. And one of the things that I think came from it, because that was the first time in my life that I'd ever meditated for, 40 something days in a row. And it's like creating and it was the most grounding thing. So I started this at the beginning of the global shutdown with the pandemic, and
Oh, fantastic timing.
it was perfect. And as a surgeon, I never could create time for it because it was during office hours, during clinic hours, but we just happened to shut down entirely for 2 weeks and then modified our clinic schedule for all remote work for the next 6 weeks. So I was like, you know what, this is my time. And what I really got out of it was yes, everything that you've just said. Meditation doesn't mean I have to sit down and not talk to anybody and like be really still and not move my body for an hour. But I learned a lot of different techniques in this course: the walking, the eating, the body scanning, and the sensory stuff, and even just that access to reflecting back on the week. What's pleasant, what's unpleasant, where does that show up in my body, and what conversations come up, what thoughts come up about those things. I thought that was a really great practice to you know self-love and loving yourself. And because you can reflect on what happened before, and in the moment you can write it down, and then you can be like, oh, like a week later, oh, I'm already a different person again, and like I already forgive myself. And there's some things that you don't forgive yourself for, and then you're like, oh, there's something deeper there. I need to do more
Mhm,
work there. Oh, this is something that happens for me again and again and again. Why am I so blocked here?
mhm.
So I think these tools are wonderful. But doing that course, it was like, if you set forth a practice, like you said, that self-care time, 5-10 minutes, whatever, it's the first thing you do in the morning, it becomes prophylactic. Prophylactic is a word we use in medicine, which means preventative. And
Mhm.
when you are being proactive at taking care of yourself, creating time to love yourself, it makes it that much easier to handle life, to handle the divorces, the global shutdowns, and
Yeah.
all that stuff. It just gets easier to handle. And so, are you familiar with Irene Lyon?
Oh, I don't think so.
She's Canadian, and she has become I just love, love, love her work. She has largely an online community, but she does a lot of nervous system work and nervous system. Yeah. So totally different. She doesn't identify with mindfulness. She doesn't identify with like Eastern meditation, yoga, anything like that. But she has a very strong neuroscience and somatic experiencing background.
Fantastic.
And there's an exercise that I've maintained and really appreciate from her work that really works well for me when I feel time pressure. And I can feel anxiety from that because I'm pulled in so many different directions at once, right? I'm getting pages from the ER. I'm supposed to be in the operating room. I have patients at home who are calling me because they aren't doing well. I have a husband who's upset about something, and my daughter's homesick. Like, it's like, whoa, too many things.
Yeah.
So you can get a little wired moving from one thing to the next in moments like that. And so this practice that she's really coached me through, and in her words, this is a lifelong practice. You can't just it took 40,000 hours for me to become a general surgeon after medical school. That's how
Wow.
many hours of training. So I think about mindfulness, I think about our bodies, I think about wellness as even being bigger than that.
Oh, and I say it all the time. It is a practice. It's called a practice for a reason. You're never going to reach it. You're never going to get there. I mean, it's probably like golf. You always want to be better, right? You always want to get better at your golf game. And so it is, no, it really is a practice, and it takes time and it takes commitment. And those are very important things, but it's so worth it, right? Because who doesn't want to feel better?
It's so worth it.
I mean,
Um,
especially a surgery patient, I don't know about in the US, but in Canada, you got to jump through hoops and it takes years and years and years to get the surgery, and the process is very different now from when I had my surgery, that's for sure. And I'm so glad to see so many programs putting in mindfulness and mindset training for people, because I think it's really the most important link and probably the biggest missing link.
yeah, well, it just breaks my heart to hear stories of people who, never had this education, never had this exposure. And, I hear stories from patients who had surgery even just 10 years ago, and they're like, my surgeon told me I'd never be fat again. And I'm
Hmm.
like, no, your metabolism doesn't work like that. Like,
Yeah.
even that's a practice. Even that's something that takes internal reflection, acknowledging how different we are and how stress can impact decision making. Stress can impact sleep. Sleep can then impact cravings. And also, your metabolism can slow down to a crawl when
Hmm.
you're stressed out. So,
Absolutely.
um,
Stress and you know what? I think maybe that's why I got so interested in yoga, and because in my clinic that I owned, I'll tell you, a massage clinic, right? I saw stressed out people all the time. And I can guarantee everybody who I saw that was stressed, really stressed out, going through major changes, I swear within a year, they all had some kind of disease, cancer, whatever it was, because that is what stress does to you. So, all of these things will help with your stress, with your blood pressure, with insomnia. And all of that leads to a healthier weight, a healthier body, ultimately, right? Again, if you
absolutely.
take better care of yourself, and you feel better about yourself, you will take better care of yourself. It's
Yeah.
natural.
That is kind of a segue into kind of my more, I don't know, more final, I think, point I wanted to address with you, which was we hear a lot and we see a lot about body positivity. And I love it. I promote it like, I mean, I'm the banner flyer here. In my side of the table, so to speak, right? We're still using words in bariatric surgery like morbid obesity. The
Mhm.
word obesity is 400 years old, as far as I can tell from dictionaries, and literally is the Latin root to eat, to be fat. The
Oh, I had
rhetoric,
no idea. I've never looked that up.
the rhetoric needs to change.
Yeah.
Um, Morbid, I don't have so many um, problems with morbid because there is an association with an early death span with larger body sizes, which is why you have insurance programs paying for this. That's why there's a lot of support behind these types of things. But
Mhm.
then I always tell people, you don't have to have surgery to get there necessarily, right? Surgery is just a tool, and it's amazing, amazing tool. So I'm just really tickled to have, this conversation with you, and see your passion and enthusiasm for connecting to your body and being fully embodied.
Mhm.
So, what does body positivity mean to you? How does it sit with you? How does it resonate? I was just curious.
Yeah,
I think people can be healthy at any size. I truly
I
believe
totally
that through
agree. And
all
there's so many, like we were saying, there's so many things that determine what your weight is. It's not just food, it's not just exercise.
genetics, epigenetics, trauma. We can
So
have a
many
whole
things.
talk on trauma.
Oh, yes. And that's where the somatic practice comes really good in
Yeah.
about releasing the health trauma in the body too. I've done some reading on that. It's just fascinating. But um sorry, where were we going with that? I lost my train.
Body positivity.
Body positivity. Yes. So I think that really it doesn't mean that you're saying, okay, I'm happy, I'm fat, or you know what I mean? It's not that at all. It's loving yourself for where you're at right here and right now, because you are already perfect. You are, already perfect. God put you here, or whatever you believe in, spirit, universe, whatever it is, you were put here and you are already perfect. And I think once you realize that and love your body for what it is, you have wrinkles, great. You earned the wrinkles. You earned them. You have stretch marks, great. You earned them. They're beautiful. And it doesn't mean that, oh, I'm going to be 400 pounds and be positive about my body and everything's great. It is not that. It's loving your body and yourself where you're at right now. And it's okay to want to change it and to want to lose weight and to want to get healthy or fit or whatever. But just know that you are perfect the way you are right now. And I think loving your body is just so good for your health, right? Instead of looking in the mirror saying, oh, I hate that. Like, oh, please, if you have kids, don't do that in front of your kids, you know?
Mm,
It is,
no.
do I look fat in this? It's like the worst thing you could, and I've done it. I'm guilty of it. We've all done it, right?
Mm,
And so I think that's what it is to me. It's not necessarily saying I'm fat and I'm great. It's saying, okay, I weigh something that I don't want to weigh and I'm going to make changes, but I can still love myself.
yeah, I think that's beautiful and something that so are you familiar with John Mackey?
I think I've heard, well, I'm not sure.
So he was the founder of Whole Foods before it got sold to Amazon.
Okay.
And I've read a couple of his books because I just love the way he thinks about entrepreneurship and he thinks about society and thinks about culture. Like he's just kind of a wise person. But he said that talking about like business models and organic food and like I mean he really helped revolutionize the way that a corporation can be run. And he applied this notion that throughout time, the average lifespan of the human has kind of grown to a certain point where the average lifespan now on Earth, I mean, granted, of course, we can argue, yeah, people were way healthier back in primordial times and they lived to be 200 years old. And anyway, those people that talk about that. That's all fine and dandy. But we talked about the last couple 200 years when capitalism, I'm American, I can talk about capitalism, became a big thing. And the lifespan in America was really, really young. We were dying of diseases, we were dying of wars. We didn't live very long. Now that people are living and aging much, much longer, he writes about this philosophically as it's actually changing the maturity of culture. And I think about where did all of those comments come from? Why did my mother, why did my grandma, why was everybody so obsessed about my body? How come other people around me had the nerve to comment about my body? And now I have these internal critic ideas. And then how does that get passed on to our children? It's modeled after us. So I
Mhm.
feel like we're at this really cool tipping point because I feel it burning inside me. I have a very fiery kind of disposition. We are older and wiser now
Mhm.
as a society. We know that we do not need to judge a book by its cover. We have empathy and we have compassion. We have personal experiences. We have evolved beyond the 25, 20, 15-year-old mentality.
Yeah.
And we're now adults. Now we can fully embrace ourselves. And this is maybe it's not common everywhere, but again, I'm just so inspired by conversations with you. I work in a gorgeous practice where my entire community of dietitians, obesity medicine, endocrinologists, other surgeons are fully embracing this idea. We want to do away with the rhetoric of
Mhm.
bad medicine. By the way, here's another fun fact for you and all the listeners out there. At my bariatric surgery meetings, if a patient doesn't have success losing weight or gains weight, the answer in the past has always been to do more surgery.
Oh.
Surgery has never worked for that because you got to do this work first.
Mhm. You
Number
know,
one.
it's so what's so fascinating you brought that up is because um investigating and doing research for my business, there's actually like that's I didn't know that was a thing, a revision surgery. And I am still flabbergasted by the amount of people that do it because I think, well, geez, if it didn't work the first time,
There's no evidence to support it has any lasting effect on your metabolism.
yeah.
A lot of times there's a lot of complications. You only get one good shot at it. And I believe the tool is so beautiful, so powerful. I mean, just like what you said, being almost 400 pounds, wow.
Yeah.
powerful,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, it's been a crazy, crazy journey. But one thing I have learned in doing when I had my radio show and interviewing people, and through all my yoga experiences too, actually, that if you want to call them skinny bitches, they all feel the same way too. They feel
No,
the same way.
girl, yes, that's what I'm saying. Like, I mean, yeah,
The
and it
light bulb
really,
moment when you realize that,
yeah,
it's
there's a collective pressure, and we need to evolve and grow and get beyond it. As a little side note, my 4-year-old daughter was like wrestling with my mom, grandma, and my mom's very curvy. I mean, huge breasts. Like I was, yeah, huge. But my mom has always delightfully been like, "Oh," pinch an
yeah.
inch, that type of thing. I always heard those comments. And my 4-year-old daughter, I heard her say, "Grandma, you're fat." And I
Oh,
was flabbergasted. Like my reaction was just like, "You are in trouble." And so now my 4-year-old thinks that fat is a bad word. And so now we're having to like coach our way through it. But I was just like, I was offended that my 4-year-old daughter, and like, where did you hear that? Because I am
mhm.
so conscious. I do not use language like that in my house. I'm trying to rewrite the narrative here of our culture.
Yeah, yeah.
But at the same time, I'm like, well, who knows? Maybe my mom said it to herself. And so that's another reflection too of, yeah, sure, fat's not a bad word. But I think when people don't have that self-worth and don't have that self-love, and if that's the only thing that they see, and those are the only words that they're putting in their mind, well, that can be, that can have a negative impact. If it's consuming all of your thoughts, those skinny bitches are doing it too.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
are.
Yeah.
And men too. I
Yep.
interviewed a man that had lost a ton of weight, and he felt the same way as women do. And I was surprised. I thought it didn't affect men the same way, to be honest with you. I
Yeah.
really thought they didn't feel the same way because I didn't think there was the same amount of pressure to be thin or beautiful or all of those things. But no, there is, and they feel the same way. Everybody feels the same way. So if
Yeah.
you take nothing from that, nothing else from this, at least hopefully that'll make you feel better, right? We
Yeah.
all feel the same way.
I thought it'd be fun if we could have like a special pair of glasses or lenses where instead of like seeing beauty, you would see like, aura colors or something, and
Awesome.
like
That
that would be
sounds
the only way we
fantastic.
could judge people is like, huh. Yeah, well, Teresa, it's been so lovely to talk to you, and I want to have more conversations with you. Um, is there anything you want to leave our listeners with?
Well, yeah, there's a couple of things. I'm having a Master Your Mindset challenge. It's a free 5-day challenge that we're doing in May. So I think I'll get everybody's email addresses. So I'll send out an email so people can sign up for that. It's a really simple practice, and follow us over at the Bariatric Guru. We have lots of live videos and all sorts of things going on over there. And our website will be up in a couple of weeks, I hope. I got some
Wonderful.
videos shot, and I saw one of them yesterday. So I'm pretty excited about getting all that done. And I also thought we could do just a short body scan
Yeah.
meditation here. I did record it for everybody. So as my special gift to everybody who's watching this and who signed up, you'll get it to use. And it's less than 7 minutes. So it's a great way to start a practice for you. And it's just a really grounding, beautiful practice. So we can do it here today. I don't have any music because that's a whole nother learning curve on the Zoom and music.
It is challenging. I mean, I guess, yeah, we'll figure that out.
Yeah, it'll be in our next ones for
Yeah.
sure. But so we'll start now. If you just want to get comfortable, we're going to do a grounding body scan. And we're going to be able to shift our attention from our thoughts and worries of our day and bring our awareness back inward. This practice will help you to relax, feel grounded, and increase your awareness of your body. And because of the short duration of this practice, I do suggest remaining seated and not lying down. So we'll begin.
I'm going to sit down.
Yeah. Yes, get comfortable. So bringing your awareness now to your body, ensuring you have a comfortable place to relax, perhaps removing your shoes, You can hold a soft gaze or close your eyes. And we'll start by taking a couple of deep breaths. Inhale through your nose and exhale through your mouth. The big sigh. Drop your shoulders. As you become more comfortable, align your head, your neck, your spine. And now bring your attention to the surface upon which you're sitting, feeling your body relaxing into the surface as it holds and supports you. As you continue to let go and relax deeper and deeper, move your awareness to your toes and your feet, and imagine all the nerves and muscles softening, falling away from the bones, relaxing your feet, your ankles, relaxing your calves, your knees, relaxing your thighs, opening the hips, feeling your bum on your chair, softening your belly, moving up and relaxing the shoulders, your arms all the way down to your fingertips. Your arms are heavy. Open your throat, releasing the jaw joint, and rest your tongue on the floor of your mouth. Moving up and softening your face muscles, softening across the cheeks, around the temples, relaxing the forehead, relaxing your scalp. Enjoying the restful darkness behind your eyelids. As you rest here, become aware of your whole body. Feel your whole body together now. And now, taking all the time you need, gently bring your awareness back to the present moment. Wiggling your fingers and your toes, feeling your body supported. You'll open your eyes, awake, refreshed, and at peace. Namaste.
Namaste.
Awesome. Now you can be all relaxed for your patients this afternoon.
That's right. That's right. Oh, Teresa, an absolute pleasure.
Oh, it was so fantastic to get to speak with you for more than a few minutes at a time.
I know, and different over email, but
Yes, exactly.
like I
Exactly.
said, I read your bio, I found you on Facebook, and you're like barely launching, and I was just like, yes, give me
Yeah.
some Teresa.
Uh,
Pleasure. Okay, so listeners, you are going to be getting a copy of her guided
yes, a copy of the body
meditation.
scan meditation. It's
And I will also be including links. Let me know when your website is live. We'll make sure it's live when we send out those links, and attachment 2 to your Facebook group.
Great. That sounds
Yay.
fantastic. Thank you so much. It's been such an honor.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Looking forward to talking to you soon.
Okay, bye bye.
Bye.